Hello and good day to you. I just wanted to take a minute and not make a long sermon because we don't have much time. But I wanted to just say that if you read back over the messages that we've been able to post on our blog and on social media, and then if you go back and listen to the audio sermons, we have, by the help of the Lord, proven that Calvary is the tree of knowledge and that it is where death came in. We look at it like this, and there's a lot of ways to see it and a lot of ways to say it. But when you look at Calvary, you take the body of Jesus, it goes away in death. And it goes away in death because it was made sin. So there is darkness in the body of Jesus. We see it came over Calvary and it entered his body, and he cried out, "Forsaken." So in that, the body was forsaken and the body was made sin. Then we say sin is evil. Therefore we have evil in the body, death in the body, sin in the body. Therefore the body is the darkness. It is the evil. As to, not that the body itself is evil, but it's the place where darkness was put. Because God, who was light, he departed that body. He forsook that body. Therefore, leaving that body, not in a world of light, but now in a world of darkness. All right, now then, that's the body of Jesus that was made sin. Now then, because it was made sin, then God departed it. Then we find that God, who is good, God, who is life, we say even as to Christ, that was the spiritual inward man of Christ. That spirit departed that body. We say Jesus yielded up the ghost. The Bible says that at death, the spirit goes back to God who gave it. We find God, as we say, turned his back on that body. So that's the good of it. That's the good of the tree. See? So you have a mixing at that tree of darkness and of light. So when you have the mixing of darkness and light, then you have a tree. The two pieces of wood that made up the cross, the tree. We say one piece of wood going upward had to do with the spirit departed, the spirit going into heaven, which happens at death, which makes Calvary a tree of death. Because at death, the body and the spirit are separated. The body was made sin. Therefore, the body is full of darkness, is full of death. And God cannot look upon sin, so God, the spirit, departs the body. Therefore, the tree of Calvary is a tree of good and of evil. It is a tree of grace and of law. Because you find the moon in the Bible was symbolic of the law. And then you find at Calvary also that Jesus is the moon that hung between God and man. He is the moon that was turned into blood. The Bible speaks of the moon being turned to blood. And it said that the sun turned black, which was God departing Jesus, departing the body. So this tells us that the tree of knowledge of good and evil is Calvary. And that what Moses is writing to you in the book of Genesis is he's foretelling and foreshadowing the coming of Calvary, which is manifested, we say 2,000 years ago. But see, Calvary was already in the mind of God. And Moses on Mount Sinai was in the mind of God. And Moses said, "I want to see you, God." And God said, "You can't see me and live," which means death, "but I'll show you my backside, which is my body." So God showed Moses the backside that was to be made sin. What is the backside that was to be made sin? It was the body of Jesus being made sin. How do we know? Because the Bible tells us that's what God showed Moses. Because Moses asked to see God. Then what did Moses see? The Bible says that Calvary was the lamb slain in the mind of God before the world ever was. So Moses is there in the mind of God before the world ever was. And he looks into the mind of God. He asks to see God, and God says, I'm going to show you this side of me. And what does he show Moses? He shows Moses the backside of him that's going to be made sin. He shows him the tree that would be the knowledge of good and of evil. He showed Moses the side of him that would be made sin, which is the evil, as to the law revealing sin in the flesh, which is why Jesus' body became sinful flesh. It was made sinful flesh. And then he's going to show the good side of that tree, which is the Christ, the innocent Christ that departed that tree, yielded up the ghost. The spirit goes back to God who gave it. So we say we come to the altar of Calvary and we die to our flesh. We die to that image. We die to that sin. And then when we do, our spirit is yielded up. We yield up our inward man, our inward spirit unto God by faith in Calvary. So what this means is there's an evil side to the tree because it put death in your body. But there was a good side to the tree that put life in your spirit. So your spiritual inward man is now in heaven as Christ. Your body is now this outer Jesus made sin, left here, as we say, in the earth to suffer and bear the penalty for sin. Does the body bear the penalty for sin? Well, sure it does. The body ages. The body is subject to time, subject to sickness, subject to pain and suffering. And over time, it eventually dies and goes to the grave, to the dust of the earth. So we see that it is bearing a burden of sin. It's bearing the burden of an accusation against it. It's bearing the burden of a lie that never truly was. Because the body never sinned. It was Satan. He's the only sinner there's ever been. He's the only one who transgressed the law, as we say. But he did those things using the human body and then accusing you of being the one who done it when it never was you. And that's the secret right there. That's what you've got to get hold of. It was never you. It was him. Always him. Now we look at it like this. We say, in our human mind, we go through life, we do things that we think are wrong, we condemn ourselves over it, and then because of that condemnation, because condemnation is faith in reverse, then we blame ourselves, we condemn ourselves. We say, oh, you're such a horrible person, you're such an evil person, you're such a bad person. Look at the wrong you've done, look at the sin you've done, look at the things you violated, all these kind of things. And when we do, then we've injured our faith to that extent. We've turned faith away from God and we've placed it in the flesh. We believe the lie of the liar. We believe the weakness of the flesh instead of the righteousness of God. So we go, and over time, things start happening. We may lose our job. We may fall as to be hurt. We may have trouble in our marriage. We may experience divorce. We may, come down with a sickness or cancer, and we're laying there, as we say, in the hospital bed. And the doctor says you've got cancer and we've got to operate. And you're thinking, well, I know why this is. This is a good that this has happened to me because I'm paying for it on this side. And you might not say it to others, but in your mind you think, well, I did wrong. I did evil. So I'm getting my just reward. See? And so we justify. We say to ourselves, I must deserve it, or else I wouldn't be going through it. I know there are things that I've done that was wrong, so I've got to pay for it. And I guess I'm glad I'm paying for it on this side. And you see what you're doing is your faith is sealing in. Your faith is not in God. Your faith is in the condemnation. You're believing the accusations of the condemnation of the accuser of the brethren. You're believing his lie that you ever did wrong to begin with when you never did. See? Even when you go and you come to what you call Calvary. You come to Calvary and here's what you're told about Calvary. Well, you're a sinner. But you want to be saved by grace. So you go down to the altar. The altar is where the place of wrath comes. Wrath comes upon the altar. They light the fire. They consume the sacrifice. Therefore, that means that the sacrifice is the beast of burden is paying for your sin. That's the fire of the altar. And you go to Calvary, and the fire of God's wrath comes. And it consumes the lie of the liar, as we say. It consumes the beast. You yield up the ghost and you're free from the flesh. You're free from sin of the flesh. So what that does is, that means you believe in this message of Calvary, that you are a sinner and you've got to come and get forgiveness. And to get forgiveness, you have to die to that lie, or you have to die to that accusation, because you believed what the condemnation told you. You believed that you was a sinner and that you needed to be saved. And to be saved, you had to believe the lie of the law that accused you of sin. You had to believe Satan in your Eve or your flesh. And therefore you willingly, thinking it's a good thing, thinking it's a great thing, thinking it's the only escape you've got, you go to Calvary. And then you lay down your, what you call, sinful flesh. But see, Satan has no right to your flesh until you believed his lie. When you believed his lie, watch what happens. You go to Calvary and you believe the message of Calvary, and you go there and you make a deal. And you say, Lord, I give up my spirit. I accept the death, which is the wrath of God. The wrath of God upon sin was death. He said, in the day you eat thereof, you shall die. Therefore, you go to Calvary and you eat. And when you eat, you die. But you say, I had no other way to do it. I had no choice because I was a sinner. I was accused of sin. And what Satan accused me of was the truth. Therefore, I come and offer up my body in death, because Satan or sin is in my flesh. And because of this, I have to die to that. And because I die to that, then I accept death in my body, because death has to enter my body. Look at Jesus. He yielded up the ghost as an acceptance of death. And here comes the darkness over Calvary, which is what? It's death. Darkness is death. Who has power of darkness but Satan? Who has power of death but Satan? Who is the spirit of darkness but Satan? So he comes and he enters the body of Jesus the same way he enters your body. You are saying, because I believe the lie of the liar, I believe that what Satan said to me was true, then I give my body to death that my spirit may live. And that, in a way, to you, is a good thing. It's the lesser of the two evils, you might say. I give up my body in death that my spirit may return back to life. And that's a good thing to this extent, that your spirit would live. And your spirit would not, you would not be cast away into eternal death. See, that's what it means. You're saying, I don't want my spirit to go into eternal death. I'm willing to let my body be temporarily dead. In that sense, I want my body to be temporarily die or go to the grave. I want that to be like that. so that my spirit might be saved. And of course, that's what the Word tells us. It says that death, the spirit goes back to God. And that God, suffered this thing to happen as to the flesh and the body, and that your spirit would be free from it. And we find at Calvary, what happens? What happened at Calvary? A rent veil took place. What was the rending of the veil? The veil was the person of Jesus Christ, who had his spirit in his body. But then look what happened. He didn't have to die, because he proved there at the Mount of Transfiguration he couldn't die. But then what happened? He yielded up the ghost. He accepted the lie of the liar. The wrath of God came upon him. And the great man of God said that Satan, who is the father of a lie, which means he's a liar, means he comes with a lie, he came and entered the body of Jesus. There at Calvary, death came. And then the spirit departed. God, who is truth and who is love and who is life, he departed that image, that body. And when it was, Satan came, as we say, and entered that body. So the point of it is that separation of Calvary between the spirit and the body, that separation was a divorce. That separation was a broken stone. That separation is what made the body appear to be sinful flesh. And there's a lot of things we can say that goes into all that. And we brought this up before. We're not going to keep reiterating it. But anyway, I just want to drop a few of those things in to let you know that Calvary is the tree of knowledge of good and evil. The law reveals good and evil. And because the law reveals good and evil, then for Jesus to be made sin, he had to be the law. And for him to be the law, then he had to be made both good and evil. His flesh became the evil, or Satan entering his flesh, and then his spirit went back to God who gave it, which was the good. So we say good and evil, then you say law and grace. Law revealed good, law revealed evil, grace revealed the good. So he was both law and grace. See, he was the moon, which was the law, and then he covered that moon, or turned it into blood, or covered the moon with blood, which was grace. You can't have grace unless you have law. You can't be forgiven if you're not believing that you did something wrong. So what are we trying to say? We're trying to say that your inner Adam was not found in the transgression, so it could safely, as a spirit, return back to God. But your flesh believed a lie. Your outer Eve believed the lie of the devil. It believed the accusations against it. It believed it was weak and it was finite. It believed that it had done wrong. Therefore, by its faith, then the law says, according to your faith, so be it unto you. Therefore, your inner man believed God and went away into heaven, if you are a Christian. But your outer man believed the lie of the liar, which was Eve in the garden. And it believed the lie, and therefore it received death into it, which means your body dies to this day. If you are a Christian, your body goes to the grave, your spirit goes back to God who gave it, as we say it goes to heaven. And folks, that's Calvary. That's the life of Calvary. That's the life of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, of law and grace. It's still the moon. It's still the law, just covered or veiled by an act of goodness. It's still Satan accusing you of the law by the law, but changing himself from an evil spirit of accusation to an angel of light, to make Calvary look like a good tree. Because if it's an evil tree, no one's going to come. He won't have no bodies to enter into. But if it can convince you it's a good tree and cause you to trade your flesh for his spirit and to believe his lie, then you give him access to the world of your blood. And he receives life through your blood. He comes out of the dry places and enters your blood. See, so it's a deception. See, it's a partial truth mixed with a partial lie. See, it's a mixing of light and darkness. It's a mixing of good with evil. See, so the point of it is there's two trees in the garden. One was the tree of knowledge of good and evil, which was Calvary. The other tree is the tree of life, which has to do with the revelation of Jesus Christ, which is the resurrected Christ, in whom there is no more death, no more darkness, no sin. He said, I'll appear the second time without sin unto salvation. And he's appeared the second time as the revelation of Jesus Christ, the tree of life. And in that body, there is no sin, there is no death. See, there's no believing of the lie of the liar. It's no more law and grace. It's now eternal righteousness. The law was a 30-fold measure of light mixed with darkness. Grace was a 60-fold measure, which means a greater light, but still mixed with darkness. But the revelation of Jesus Christ is the 100-fold measure, in whom there is no darkness, no shadow of turning. And the tree of life has fruit on the tree. And that fruit is the message of the seven thunders. What are the seven thunders saying? They're telling you that the tree of Calvary has deceived your body, deceived your Eve, into thinking it had to die, that it ever done anything wrong, and that it has to go by the grave, and that sin and death have any right to it whatsoever. See, it was a lie. It was not so from the beginning. Jesus proved this. Because before he ever went to Calvary, he stood on the Mount of Transfiguration, proving to you that what Satan was about to do by coming there upon the cross of Calvary to deceive the world, deceive the wicked, that the lie was not true. He was the truth. The Mount of Transfiguration was the truth that came and was here before the world ever was. What world am I speaking of? I'm speaking of the world that came through Calvary, the mixing of light and darkness, the mixing of good and evil, the mixing of truth with lie, that caused death to go to your body. See, and if you don't get saved, then it becomes death to your soul eternally. See, it's the world of Satan. He came and made his seat there at Calvary because Jesus, who was the Christ, the spirit that was in that body, he yielded up his spirit. And then we say it went back to God who gave it. But Satan, who was the darkness, came and entered that body. That's the Antichrist, which is Satan, standing in the temple of God, which is the body of Jesus Christ, who was the temple of God. Your body is the temple. Jesus' body was the temple of God. Satan, the liar, came and stood in that body, making that body, lifting up the flesh, glorifying the flesh of Jesus, lifting it up around the world by the cross of Calvary. Then what he did was he made that body the most beautiful beast in the garden. See, and that beautiful beast has been shined a light upon by Satan to spotlight it and make it beautiful and glorious, and tell you that you've been accused of sin, but this here's a good tree. You can come to it and get forgiveness. See, all sweet forgiveness. But why do you need forgiveness for something you never done? See, you was never a sinner to begin with. There's a brand new message in the land, and it's the tree of life, the tree of death, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, which is Calvary. It had a message. But now, the tree of life has come. The way to it is open and made available. And it had a message. It has a message also. And that message is the message of the seven thunders. That is Christ, God, returning back to that body to reveal to it that it never sinned to begin with. It was all a lie of the liar. And it's to awaken it from the sleep of death, from the sleep of the bite of the serpent. Like Paul, he cast that serpent aside and back into the fire and redeemed the body and changed the body by spiritual revelation to reveal to the body that what Satan told it, that put it into the grave, was a lie? Because when you believe the lie, your faith is a seal. The faith in Jesus Christ is the seal of God upon your forehead, which is the mind that has to do with the heart. Not your physical heart, but your spiritual heart. It means your spirit, who you are. So your faith is a seal. So your inner man has, we say, sealed its faith in God, and it's gone to heaven. But notice, your Eve has believed the lie of the devil and allowed death, as we say, to enter the body. So your body is sealed with 7 seals, and the Bible speaks of how Satan, when he departs a person, it says he comes back with 7 spirits worse than what he is. See? And as an antitype, it shows your body being sealed in death, as we say, by 7 seals. God is a 7-fold light. God is love, and love is as strong as death. Only love is as strong as death. And the 7 seals, so to speak, of God is to his 7 spirits, and that 7-fold light is the only thing that can rebuke and cast out that 7-fold darkness of death into the body. It's the only thing that can do it. That's why the revelation has come. That's why it's a 7-fold light. That's why in the Old Testament it spoke of a day that would come where the sun would become 7-fold in brightness, and that the moon would become as bright as the sun. And if you count that, then you find there's no more darkness on the earth. That's what that means. It means there's no more darkness in the body. It means there's no more death or sin in the body. The body can live now. It can touch the tree of life and live forever and never die anymore. Because at Calvary, the body was sacrificed in death. It was life to your spirit, but it was death to your body. And the Antichrist came and rules your life in this world through your covenant with death. You believed him. When you believed his lie, that you was ever a sinner, whether it be your flesh, your body, your soul, or your spirit, it was a lie. And you realize that your faith in his words and his accusations and his condemnation deceived you and caused you to give up your body to death to begin with. And by law, he had legal right to come and enter your flesh, because the law of God is according to your faith. And your faith in him, in his words, and his lie, it put death into your body. And now the revelation of Jesus Christ has come, the tree of life, and it's telling your body that it was a lie, that you never sinned to begin with, that it was impossible for your body, soul, or spirit to ever sin, because you came from God. Jesus' body came from heaven, and the lie of the body that came from the dust of the earth has to do with Lucifer and the fall of Lucifer, and we've talked about that before. So I didn't want to keep you long. I'm just letting you know that your body, your faith, sealed up your body with 7 seals into death. And the revelation of Jesus Christ, which is the man on the throne in Revelations 4, and he's thundering with thundering and lightning, and he's telling you with all the saints, the many voices of the saints, and they're all telling you, because you come with him, they come with him, because they're all one spirit. But they come to tell you that the lie of the liar is over, and death in the body is over. And it's revealing the secret of the little book, the secret of immortality to your lamb, to your body, to your outer Jesus, to raise it from the dead, so that your body will never have to die or go by the grave anymore. To end death. See, to loose the 7 seals that your Eve has believed unto death. And it came through Calvary. It came through Calvary. Paul tells you this. We put down scriptures on our Facebook page that tell you this. We post them on our blog, scriptures that clearly define this and tell you that death entered your body because of sin in the flesh. Because you believe the lie of sin to begin with. Sin itself is the lie. You never sinned. It's impossible for you to sin. Because Satan is the only sinner. He's the only one that was ever recorded in the books of heaven that ever rebelled against God and transgressed his law. See? So there's two trees in the garden. One is the tree of Calvary. The other one is the risen Christ, the tree of life. One is a mixture of sin and death, and good and evil, and light and darkness, partial truth and partial lie. The other one is full of light, and in whom is no darkness. It is the pure 100% truth, the 100-fold measure, the fullness of the stature, the tree of life, whose fruit is the thunders, the 7 thunders that merge your spirit and body back together as one, because they were separated by divorce at Calvary, by the lie of the liar. And a lot more we could talk about that has to do with a lot of things. But anyway, we didn't want to keep you. We just wanted to mention these few things to you. That if you really stop and be honest with yourself and think about it, you'll realize that Calvary is the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And that it had a truth, but it had a deception too. Because your spirit definitely goes to heaven when you come to Calvary, but your body still goes to the grave. Jesus didn't defeat death at Calvary. He defeated death when he rose from the grave, when he resurrected. He didn't defeat sin at Calvary. He didn't defeat it, or it wasn't manifested that he defeated it until he rose from the dead. Because the law and transgression of the law is what brings sin. And sin, when it's finished, it brings forth death. So Calvary was sin, it was death. He was made sin, therefore he was made death. Therefore he had to be the law. Now then, but when he rose from the dead, there was no law. There was no wrath. The Bible says against such there is no law. See, there's no more law, there's no more sin, no more death. The thing is, it wasn't that there was sin and death. He was coming down to be the strong delusion that God needed to deceive the wicked. And he's trying to pull you out of that world. Because Calvary was the world of wrath. God poured out his wrath on Calvary. But it says to you and I that we are not appointed unto wrath. See? And we brought all that out too in previous sermons. So if you feel like it, if these words mean something to you, if they stir your heart and mind and you want to hunger and go deeper, then go to our website, transfigurationblog.wordpress.com, and comment, like, share, read, listen to the sermons. We've got audio sermons, we've got tracts, we've got songs, we've got poems, we've got many, many sermons and much artwork and charts and illustrations. But we thank you for your time. God bless you. And these are the hard things of the thunders that Brother Pike said would come, and Brother Branham said would come. And this folds up the law. It folds up Calvary. It folds up law and grace. It's the end of that world, which is the tree of knowledge. And it's the beginning of the tree of life, which has to do with the millennium coming in. It has to do with the third heaven coming in. So God bless you. And we love you, we pray for you, we think about you, and we want to just put this little sermon out there as a reminder to you that something great is taking place, and there's a brand new message in the land. There's a new tree that's now been made available for you to come and partake of. You don't have to eat from Calvary anymore. You can eat from the tree of life, because there was 2 cherubim, see, there in the garden. The Bible said one of the cherubim covered, and we brought that out too, what that had to do with. There's a tree of knowledge, which has to do with Calvary, and it's the tree of death, and then there's the tree of life, see, which was guarded that no one could get to until the third day was to come, until this day was to come, until the revelation of Jesus Christ was to come. And now the revelation of Jesus Christ, the tree of life, is producing its 7 thunders, which is the fruit of that tree, that your body may now reach forth its hand and touch that tree and be free from the death of Calvary once and for all, and be raised from the dead. It's a great thing, folks. It's a great thing that's taking place. The greatest hour of all is here. The wedding banquet of the Lamb has begun. It's the marriage of the Spirit and the body. And it's all because of the seven thunders. It's a very late hour. So get your invitation and get into the wedding supper before it's too late. Because the Master will at some point rise up and shut the door. And no one will be able to get in after that. God bless you. We love you.